Hey everyone, before I begin this week's episode, I did want to give a special announcement. Our episode features a very special guest, and her name is Chelsea. And in honor of her being our guest, and we're going to tell you all about her and her business and all the things, but we're going to be doing a giveaway contest. And basically what this is for is a free mini tarot card reading. And all you have to do is go to our Facebook page, Operation Evil. You got to find our post about the giveaway. And what you're going to do is on that post, we are going to have you like our page, tag at least 3 friends, and share that post, and that enters you in the contest. The contest will close out on Friday, October 15th, and the winner will be chosen Saturday, October 16th. So I wish you guys luck. This is a Facebook exclusive contest, so get on there, enter to win, and good luck to you. On with the show. All right, we are recording. Welcome back to another episode of Operation Evil. I'm Nyoka.
I'm Rachel.
And we have a very, very special guest today. I'm going to let her introduce herself, but her name is Chelsea. But taking on from here, Chelsea.
Hello, I'm Chelsea from Enlightment, Tarot and Spirituality, and I am a tarot reader and spiritual coach who likes to help people live their best life, including those of us who may have slightly different morals and ways of living, like the people we usually talk about on Operation Evil. So I'm very excited to be here with you both today.
I'm very excited too. I got to tell you how I found you and tell everybody else.
Oh, yes. Definitely share the story.
So I don't really get on Etsy a whole lot, but lately I have. And you popped up out of nowhere. I didn't even know this was a thing that could be found on Etsy. But you came up. It was like, I take everything as a sign. And I was like, whoa, this is crazy. I didn't know. I'm going to try this out. So I did. And everyone, she is so spot on and amazing. And I kept coming back for more and back for more. And
I know as I'm reading.
And Rachel,
as I'm listening to Nyoka's read, I'm like,
no way.
No way. And then when she did mine, the same.
Oh, I got to tell you too. I think it was the second reading because I even showed Rachel the reading. She goes, "Oh my gosh, that's so spot on. Is she a witch?"
That is not the first time I have been asked that. It's not even the first time I've been asked that this year.
And not that being a witch is a bad thing.
No. I'm totally like, and it was actually somebody that I met, and we were having a bit of a conversation, and he just joked. No, I joked first actually, because we'd met on a dating app and he wanted to catch up, and I felt he was moving things too forward a little bit too quickly for my liking. And I'm like, well, look, hold up, mate. Like, how do I know that you don't hate dogs, that you're not the type of person who, doesn't put their rubbish away at a restaurant? And what if you don't like astrology? And the bit that he took the most objection to out of that whole statement, he goes, is it really important to you that the people that you date are into astrology? So I said,
yes, it kind of is.
Yeah, firstly, yes. Secondly, I said, well, are you a Capricorn then? And the only reason why I actually didn't even try to intuitively guess that is just because there's actually a meme that specifically calls out Capricorns because they're a very logical bunch. I love Capricorns, but they are the least likely to sort of believe in astrology. So I was just like, what are you, a Capricorn? And he didn't reply for a little while. And then he comes back and he's like, how did you know?
Oh my gosh. That's hilarious.
I know. And then he goes to me, he's like, are you a witch? And he goes, because I think I've dated a witch before. And I just, are you a witch? And I said, look, I'm not a witch. I'm a tarot reader. But also, it's a meme. Like, I literally just guessed it off a meme, and I wasn't even trying to guess what star sign you were. So yeah, I do get called a witch quite a lot, which I don't have a problem with in the slightest, but I more identify as being a clairsentient empath. So I'm somebody who can sort of really feel energy, and sometimes I just know things for things that nobody tells me. And that's how come I started reading tarot cards, because I know that I have this gift, but it can be a little, I described it the other day that being psychic's a little bit like being sporty, where it's just an umbrella term, and, who even teaches you how to be psychic and stuff like that. And it is kind of like witchcraft that gets handed down through, because it's only once you know how to do it that you then sort of share that with other people and things like that.
It's just so cool because you gave details.
Yeah,
it wasn't like detailed. A blanket, it was like details.
Yeah.
I know. I know.
Some people can like say things and anybody can relate to it.
Yeah.
It's like not even like that.
Right, like you see on TV, like is there someone here that has an uncle with the beginning name of a J?
Yeah, it's not like that
way at all.
No. And that was one of my biggest problems as well in deciding to like go public and be a tarot reader and even start an Etsy shop, was that because I really only see in mainstream the really stereotypical kind of things. So you look at it and you're like, that's not me. I can't do that. Oh, they're better than me. I can't do that. But as I started reading for people, people were really finding, and the cards, I use the cards. Sometimes, to be honest, I probably don't always need the cards, but I find they give that little bit of structure and things like that, because sometimes you just get all these thoughts and feelings come in, and you know a lot about it, but you don't necessarily know where to start the story. So often I'll just pull the cards and then I'll be able to start. And sometimes, it's the things that it's not even the things that I realize that I'm saying that people connect with the most. It'll be the most random little statement and I don't even know why I say it. Sometimes it's not even a phrase that I would personally use, but people hear it and they're like, how did you know that? Or, that bit was the one that resonated the most with me. So I love it. It's so exciting.
I love it. I need to get with you after about my last one. Like, it's amazing.
Yes. Oh gosh, that one.
Tell her about the Zodiac thing. We were looking.
I don't know. Okay. So we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves, but we're going to discuss the Zodiac.
Yeah, killer. I'm sorry. I'm spoiling.
She was so excited though, but it's funny because recent news came out about the Zodiac killer yesterday. Did you see that?
No.
Isn't that odd? This has been like unsolved and whatever for many, many, many years. News comes out.
Yeah, I saw it and I screamed. I'm like, no, oh God.
I know. It's just really weird.
It is weird.
Really weird. And like, there was a song that she had mentioned. I'm just telling everybody that everybody needs to check this out. I'm going to put all of her contact information and where you can get readings and stuff in the sources in the show notes. You have to check her out. I promise you'll love it. But like the song that you referenced for me, oh my God, you can ask Rachel. Came home, it was playing. It was playing again when I came home. I kid you not. And then wasn't it playing again at another time?
I think so.
It was the weirdest thing. I don't know, but I'm just weird like that. I'm the I love crystals. I love tarot cards. I love the moon. I love all those things. I'm like, I got my little protection necklace on. My hamster.
Well, and we look for fate and everything. Just like
I look for signs and everything.
Yeah, us coming back together. Stuff like that.
Yeah, it's awesome. But yeah, everybody needs to check her out. I want to keep talking about you forever and ever. I just love you so much.
This type of thing happens to me quite a lot as well, where and we were sort of like brainstorming a few people who might work well as a tarot client and things like that. And I only picked the Zodiac killer because obviously, as we just heard, very into astrology. It's very important to me. So of course, I'd also like my serial killers to have an interest in astrology as well. It's a must have if you're going to be in my life. But, I wanted it because of the symbolism in the way that, the Zodiac killer sort of expressed what they were doing with their crimes and stuff. I was like, well, tarot is so symbolic, that just marries so well. But I just got little goosebumps then as well. So it's just like, because this type of thing does happen quite a lot. And that was actually part of what helped me become a reader as well, and what made me believe that I did have a gift that I needed to start taking seriously, because it reaches a point where you're like, this is actually not coincidence. There's no way that this is all coincidental. This is actual.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
One thing that I liked when we were talking about doing this is you were going to talk about like why horrific things even happen. I I would love to know more about that, because I think a lot of us question that, like, why would something this horrible happen all the time? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
yeah.
When I started on my spiritual journey as well, that was one of the things that sort of didn't resonate with me either, because obviously, you know, if I can mention a song in a reading and then you hear that song, I know some things happen for a reason. Clearly, I mentioned that song for a reason. So I wholeheartedly believe, I call it the universe. It's basically all of this stuff that we don't understand. And that's like the umbrella term that I use for it. I believe that each and every one of us have spirit guides who are, my personal belief is that they're ancestors, members of your family. So, for example, I have a grandfather who passed away 3 months after I was born, and I just strongly feel that he is heading up my spirit guide team, even though I didn't know him. I just know. And I believe that the spirit guides do sometimes set things up for us. I do believe that sometimes things have to happen for a reason. So, for example, you know, we've been working through some stuff with your readings lately, and there was something that made you go onto Etsy when you don't usually shop on Etsy. There was something that made my shop show up for you, something that connected us in that kind of way. So there's things like that where nobody will ever, you could talk to you blue in the face and you will never convince me that there's not some kind of divine intervention. There's not something happening to make it happen that way. So many things like that happen that are just purely not coincidence, cannot call it coincidence at all. But then also, people die in the world, people get murdered in the world, all this horrific stuff happens in the world, and it's like, okay, so if we've got this divine guidance, why is this awful stuff happening? And I kind of liken it to, I believe that we are humans, and unfortunately we are having a very, very human experience here on life, and there is going to be some things that the universe cannot help. Humans have we are not immortal, and so I believe that we are all supposed to be connected with our spirit guides, which is effectively connecting us with our intuition. It puts us back in contact with our own true north, helps us genuinely live our best life, helps us get rid of all those things under the surface that are kind of holding us back, which is what we've been through in like some of the readings that we've done. So if the whole world was working intuitively and working with their spirit guides, there would be a lot less evil in the world, a whole lot.
That's
there would still be, you know, things like somebody's going to pass away at some point in time. Do you know what I mean? So there's still mortality, but there wouldn't be evil if we were all truly aligned with what we're meant to be doing, listening to, you know, the universe and all of these kinds of things. So I believe that, like, bad things happen one of three ways. First and foremost, sometimes we have to go through it. You know, like, I now work full-time as a tarot reader, but over the past 12 months, I've had 3 employers. One I left voluntarily after I'd been there for a number of years, thinking that I was going to a better opportunity at a tarot company of all places, but I got fired like 3 months after I started working there.
What?
Not even joking. And you know, I was spiritual by this stage, and I was living my best life by this stage. So I was like, this is not how my life is meant to happen.
I think you shared that with me in my reading.
Yeah.
About a job. Yeah.
Yeah.
I lost my job. I was unemployed for 3 months. I did start this shop at that point in time. But, you know, it didn't take off until I got a new job, and I was working in this new job. And, you know, the new job was exciting. It was working for a national sporting team. It was a very, very exciting, very cool job, but I hated it. I just, and it's not because
it's not for me.
Yeah, because it was just so far out of alignment with what I was meant to be doing. I was meant to be following my calling by this point. But, you know, if I had have known that I was going to lose that job at the tarot company, I would have never, ever applied for it. I would have, you know, because who's going to voluntarily sign up to have something bad happen to them, right? Like, nobody.
Right.
So either I would have not ever done it, and I would have stayed in that sort of like little familiar comfort zone of where I was, or I would have gone anyway, and I would have sold my soul trying not to get fired. So, but if I hadn't have gotten fired, if I hadn't have, because at that job was the first time that I actually read tarot for a stranger. So I used to believe that my gift only linked with people that I knew, like people, and because it was a lover that I learned how to read tarot from, that I was like, holy hell, I can read so much about you. And so I thought it was just our bond that meant, I didn't understand that my gift was broader than just the connection that I had with this person. And so I read tarot for the first time at this job that I got fired from, and the amount of things that I learned and all of these things. And I also had to, when I left my original job, I was really surprised that people were sad I was leaving, because, you know, I didn't think that people valued me that much. And then when I got fired, I realized that the right people will always value you enough. And, you know, so I had those lessons to go through. So I believe sometimes that kind of thing happens. When I look at how, and obviously that's a lot over a 12-month period, and it's not always been easy. And there's been times where I have cried and I have asked why, and I've asked what on earth is going on, and how can I be spiritual? How can I be getting these coincidences and signs from the universe and my life be going so off track? It wasn't going off track at all. It was, everything was happening the way that it was supposed to happen for me. And now that I'm in this situation, now I'm at the point where that journey of my life is all starting to make sense. So sometimes the universe will coordinate things like that we have to go through, because I always say we grow through what we go through. So sometimes some of that discomfort that we experience is going to be because we need it in order to move forward to the next step. Sometimes people go off track though. Like sometimes I could have chosen to ignore all the signs. I could have chosen to, you know, like things like you listening to that song when I've mentioned it, you could have been like, no, I don't care about this. I'm closing my mind to this. So if you disconnect with the universe, if you disconnect from your intuition and what's right for you, you can get very off track. And I believe that this is actually where a lot of stuff actually happens. A lot of us walk around very wounded, you know, and obviously I'm into the spiritual side, not the psychological or the psychotherapy kind of side of things. But, you know, I don't believe that there is, you know, as much pure evil in the world. You know, like obviously there's some psychopaths and stuff like that, and some people are just born like wired that little bit differently to the rest of us. But for the most part, you know, you look at all of the things that people have in common, and it's like, you know, a lot of them haven't had the easiest life. A lot of them had a lot of things go wrong. A lot of them have been steadily on this decline. And that's the kind of thing that happens to all of us. Maybe we don't go out and start killing people and hurting other people, but we kind of kill and hurt our soul when we're not in alignment. So I believe that those two things happen. I think bad things will happen because they need to. Bad things will happen because someone's gone rogue and they're not following their true north anymore. And then also there is that layer of stuff that just happens because people are human. And so, for example, I could still get murdered. I would hope that being an intuitive tarot reader, I'm in touch enough with my intuition to be able to recognize danger and things like that. But you know what? The whole thing is that we don't always know why we get these thoughts. Like there was a day when my ex-partner and I both had to travel a 4-hour drive, and I don't know why we were in this town where we had 2 cars with us. I don't remember those circumstances. All I remember is we were walking across my parents' front yard, and he had our dog, because our dog loved riding in his car with him, and the dog loved him more than he loved me, if we're honest. And I'm not really okay with that, but that's facts. And so he had the dog with him, and I just looked at both of them and I said, you need to give me the dog. And he just handed the dog. He didn't question it. He just gave me the dog. I put the dog in my car. We drove. About 2 hours into the drive, someone cut him off while he was overtaking. His car rolled many times.
Oh my gosh.
He was in like quite a horrific accident, and he was fine. He was fine. He was up and walking around. I didn't even recognize that it was him talking to me, because I'd seen it happen in my rear vision mirror, right? And I didn't even recognize that it was him talking to me when I ran down to, because I just assumed that the worst. So I thought that he would have, like when you looked at his car, he shouldn't have survived that. And if he had have had our dog in the car with him, like an extra missile floating, like would they have both survived? Would the outcome have been different? Like who knows? And I didn't know. Obviously, if I knew that he was going to crash his car, even now that he's an ex-boyfriend, if I knew he was going to crash his car, if that's what I knew, I would tell him. But I don't know. I don't know. I didn't know any of that, but I just looked at them and I was like, you need to give the dog to me. And very unlike him, he didn't even argue with it either. It was just like that. It was just like that energy of it, that this really matters. You need to do this. And we didn't understand why. And this is where I think people go off track with their intuition as well. So I would hope that if I was about to get murdered, I would have another one of those kinds of things, like don't walk down that street and don't question it. Like if you get that really strong feeling. But that's also why I teach people how to connect with your intuition and how to get rid of those junk kind of thoughts, because you could easily stand there being like, no, but this is the quickest way to get home. Like I'm going to cut 10 minutes off my journey if I walk down this street, where we need to be listening to that really sharp voice. It's like, don't go down that street. Don't let him take the dog. Don't let him do those kinds of things. Don't question it. Don't be like, oh, but the dog loves driving with him. The dog will be happy. When you get those really strong thoughts and you are in a place, because your overthinking can really easily become your intuition, and you can think that you're working from an intuitive space when you're in your head a lot. So the more that you can get out of your head, the more comfortable and confident you are, trusting those signs, every time you hear that song, you're going to come back to that message from the reading. You're going to, so things like that link it together and remind us, the more we stay connected with that, it means when we get those thoughts like, don't go down that street, give me the dog, or whatever happens to us, we can actually act on them and do a little bit of self-preservation. There are theories that some people have soul contracts and sign up for what they experience, and I don't believe that. I don't believe that any soul has to sign up to suffer. I just believe that people get so far out of alignment that they cause suffering to others. Some just do it in the, how many toxic relationships and things like that do we know about? Some just do it in that kind of mild kind of way that has very big impacts on individuals. Some do it in a way that means that they become an infamous serial killer and ruin, sometimes dozens of lives. So that's how I've resonated, how the evil in the world kind of happens. I think that there are those layers of, and basically it all comes back to, the more in touch with your intuition you are, the better off you're going to be. There's no guarantees though, and that's part of we have to get comfortable with that in life, that there's no guarantees. I'm not going to walk out of my street and get murdered. But again, hopefully I would trust that inner voice that says, don't go out of the street right now. Don't walk outside right now.
Right. Now, when it comes to the Zodiac killer, and we'll probably actually do a full episode on the Zodiac killer at some point, but just a little rundown. In the late 1960s in Northern California, there was just a bunch of random murders. He was linked to 5 of them. He says that he killed 37, I think. That's what it said. 37. He would send cryptic notes to the media, to the police, if you don't publish this, I'm going to cause more terror. But this case is never been solved. And yesterday, when we found out with the news that there's this task force called Case Breakers, they say they identified the killer as someone named Gary Francis Post, but he died in 2018. But they're still not closing this case because I don't think they're confident in that, the actual police, the authorities. But it was interesting that this was even brought up at all yesterday, for one.
Yeah.
And they're not even going by, they're going by
a scar.
Yeah. And he's kind of matched the infamous sketch out there of the Zodiac killer, which a lot of people apparently do match that sketch. They had several suspects, but it's still open. It's still unknown, but I just wanted to give a little cliff notes, I guess, on the Zodiac killer. So what do you take of it?
My take of it is that I'm still a little bit floored that this has all come out in just in the pure timing. This is just
right?
This is just the most exciting, the most exciting thing that's happened, probably this week, because how uncanny. But I'm just going to pull a few cards and just see what we need to know about these theories that have sort of come out in the media at the moment.
I feel like we could be best friends with Chelsea.
She's been talking about you all day.
I have. I'm I just vibe so well with her.
Oh, thank you. Do you know, what I'm seeing here, and I feel like this is probably more looking at the investigators kind of energy here, because what I see is the death card, actually, which is okay though, because what I'm seeing here, if we which of all the odds of all the cards to come out, but what I'm seeing here, it starts off with the 4 of Swords, which is kind of like a resting, waiting kind of card. But anybody who's ever seen the 4 of Cards in tarot knows that it actually has 4 swords lying over the person who's waiting. So this is not somebody who is resting. So what I am feeling is that probably some of those investigators, some of those people who have been involved in the cases, some of their energy is still going to be around. This would have really upset the people who were working on the case, because I feel as though the law enforcement and the people who solve our crimes and all of these things, like these things hit them harder. When they find these victims, when they're investigating these crimes, it does hit them quite hard. So what I'm seeing here is that there is a little bit of restless energy, somebody who's tried to really get on with their lives, but probably couldn't ever quite.
That makes me think of the news reporter. There's a news reporter that I think it might have been the Chronicle, maybe, I could be wrong, but he was like, I gotta solve this. Like him and his wife, I think, even got a divorce.
Yeah,
wow.
see?
Yeah. He
Like it has
life.
a big impact. And so this is kind of like the energy that I'm seeing here, because that Four of Swords goes then straight into Six of Cups, which is a bit of a nostalgic kind of energy. It's kind of like an energy of home. It's an energy of all of these kinds of things. And then we have the Death card, which it does not mean literal death, even when you're doing a reading about serial killers. What this card actually means is it's about endings and new beginnings. So what I feel like is that the reason why there has been this renewed energy in the case has probably been because it's like almost like a little bit of a sad, twisted kind of tragic bucket list item for somebody, like where somebody has just kind of been like, I can't stop until I know who did this. I can't stop until I bring this to, I'm not going to be able to rest until this is actually sorted out, because then it goes into the Queen of Pentacles, which is this beautiful, grounded, caring, nurturing kind of energy. So what I feel like is happening and why there is this renewed interest in the case at the moment is very much about the fact that this has been someone's life's mission sort of thing, and whether that was always their destined path that they were always going to sort of like get tied up in, or whether it's somebody who, and this could even be somebody who's passed as well, because sometimes, there is unfinished business in the world as well. Sometimes you do leave this world before you get to actually see things through to completion, and that was a long time ago. So there would be a lot of people involved in that case who are no longer earthside. So it may be a live or a past energy who's just like, I need this to have this final push. This needs to get resolved because I can't actually rest until it is resolved. Let's see what we need to know about that investigation specifically. I don't like to go too far into the specifics of like yes or no, absolutely, because I'm such a believer that there's some things that you're not supposed to know for various reasons. Wow. There's so many really amazing cards that are coming out here. So we actually start off with the Moon and Five of Wands. So what this kind of energy is telling me, the Moon is all about bringing things out to the surface, right? So this energy is ripe for investigations and stuff like that. But what I feel often happened in the investigation and in this kind of case was I feel as though there was an awful lot of conflict involved, and this was probably very stressful for the people involved. And it wasn't necessarily that they were fighting with themselves. This can be like coming up against obstacles. This can be things that are happening that just, these frustrating roadblocks where every time they turn around, they hit another wall kind of thing. And so I feel as though that is actually what ultimately ended the ability to be able to have this search sort of, because obviously when you find a body, you want to, the things that you want to do is you want to like give that person a dignified rest. And I say obviously like I do this all the time. I've never found a body, never been involved in this process. I'm assuming here. But, when I assume when people, when investigators are looking into murders and things like that, that's what they want to do. They want that person to get dignity. They want that person to get justice. And it's funny that I say that because the justice card has come out in this drawer. But, and then they want to bring somebody to, they want somebody to, get punishment for their crimes. And particularly in the case of serial killers, where you've then got the added angst of the fact that they're still doing it, and then they're taunting you, and then they're also, and then they're still killing people. And it's like, when am I, I'm getting dressed for work today. Is this going to be the day that is they going to find another body? Are we going to get another letter? Is something going to happen with this case? So I feel as though there was so much conflict, and that was sort of what ultimately probably stopped the killer from being brought to justice back at the time, apart from the fact that some people are very, very good at acting like upstanding members of society when they're not, like too scarily good.
Yes.
what I'm seeing is an awful lot of conflict and a lot of stuff that didn't come out to the surface. And I think too, if we look at the era of when that when those crimes were actually committed, if that type of thing happened today, for example, if there was a serial killer who was sending that, like they'd never send the newspaper, that would be a Facebook or an Instagram post from do you know what I mean? It would be on some dark web kind of release or something like that. So the way that they could actually do the crime and get really involved in that kind of symbolism side of things would be very different today. But back in that era, it would have been a very, very different time. So this person was quite a visionary. This person was quite a visionary, and I feel as though the Zodiac killer may have actually been a little bit psychic himself. I feel as though he may have been quite in touch with his own intuition, because the High Priestess card is here. But this High Priestess, with the energy that's around this, I feel as though because in any situation in life, we can choose to use our power for good, or we can choose to use our power for evil. Do you know what I mean? And I also actually have this theory. I have this theory that I believe that sometimes, and particularly because we don't know, okay, and I think that there's more empaths in the world. This is people who feel energy, right? I feel as though there are a lot more energy, like a lot of us can feel it, but we don't know that's what we're feeling. And, you get told through your life that you're too sensitive, that you're too emotional, and there's a lot of emotions here. We actually have the Zodiac killer coming through as the Queen of Cups. And in tarot, the male and the female, the masculine, feminine, it can go for either sex. It's not gender specific. But the Queen of Cups is somebody who's very flow. She does, she's in a really deep flow. She does feel her emotions very, very strongly. So with the High Priestess, I'm actually feeling like the Zodiac killer was a deep feeler. I feel as though this person was a deep feeler. And I was 38 or 39 when I realized that I was feeling somebody else's anxiety, for example. I always just assumed it was my own. Because because
we suffer from some anxiety
yeah. And I do too. So it was very feasible. It was so feasible that it was my own. Trust me, I always have a million things that are, causing me angst at any given time. But because I have always felt like, and I get these really overwhelming kind of feelings and stuff like that. Has it ever made me kill? No. And I'm not just saying that because I'm saying this publicly, no, it hasn't. But you know what? It does sometimes, when I think about how long it took me to sort of wake up and reconnect with my intuition and start living my own best life. Yeah, it kind of killed me for the better part of my 20s and 30s, where I wasn't living the way, I was very much in a little bit of a daze. And this is what I mean. People can go either way, right? People can go either way. And I actually have this theory because we have had some mental health problems with the males in my family, for example. Now they've all passed away, so I can't speak for them, and I also can't talk to them about it. But I often wonder, we've had alcoholism and quite a lot of kind of mental health related kind of ailments like that in my family. And I'm like, was that person psychic too? Could they feel all of this energy and emotion, and they didn't know how to actually? And the way that I worked it out for myself was, and it's only because I was because I already knew that I had this telepathic link to that person that I could read tarot for. And there was a day where I couldn't get this person off my mind. I was going insane. I really just, and I was literally going insane. It was all I could think about. My thoughts were racing. And I had this really, really deep burning in the back of my in the back of my shoulders. And I felt like I needed to talk to him, but we were sort of coming out of a connection, out of a love kind of connection. So I wrote him I'm a big believer in journaling. So I journaled, and I was actually going to send it to him, but I'm like, he's never going to read this. This is too many words. So I was going to record it for him, as a voice thing for him to listen to. But when I went to record it, I couldn't actually, my recording app would, and it usually does let you see one screen and record off the other, and it just was not, it's no, not doing this. And so I was there with this recording started, and I was like, okay, well, I've written you this massive sort of stream of consciousness, but I can't send it to you, and I don't think you'll read it all, so I'm just going to read your tarot cards instead. And so I pulled some cards to him, and I kept pulling the Three of Swords card, which is that's someone who's going through it, right? Really going through it. And I didn't want to give him the Three of Swords cards because I care deeply about this person. I don't want to give him a bad reading. Do you know what I mean? And so I was trying to find a positive spin on it, but I could not positively spin these cards. It didn't matter which deck I used or anything like that. And then I was like, oh, look, I'm really sorry, but this is your reading, but it gets better, you know. And then I just got this really deep feeling that like he needed to look out for yellow butterflies or sunflowers. And I also knew that if where he was at for that type of reading, he may not be like that into reading emails from Chelsea, who's probably giving him a big spiel about, you know, where her feelings are at and stuff like that. So I wrote in the subject line, I was just like, everything's going to be okay. I've done a reading for you. You're going through it, but I promise you it's going to be okay. Look out for yellow flowers and butterflies. And he replied to me saying, thank you. I really needed that. And then we got together and we talked. And like when I found out the situation, everything made sense. But that was the first time I had ever correlated somebody else's extreme distress with my own phys. And this is why I tell people, this is why one of my top tips for trusting your intuition is every time you feel something, notice where it feels in your body, because you're going to get that feeling every time. So I now know that if I feel like if I'm anxious, my thoughts are racing and stuff like that, but I have the feeling in my back, it's not mine. And I don't want everyone to be like, I've got a sore back, somebody else is having a bad day, because maybe maybe they are, maybe they aren't. But that you need to do it for yourself, where you need to sit and feel how your emotions actually feel in your body. And then you can sort of correlate things. And then that way, when I feel that kind of burning again in my back, I kind of then you always start with yourself. You always go within first, right? Always. So I'll do the things that I need to do to get myself back on track. And if I've still got those feelings, then I'll maybe do like a meditation to kind of like clear energy. I'll go for a nice long walk or something like that. But knowing how I feel and knowing how I felt in that situation, I actually have this theory, and seeing this Queen of Cups with the High Priestess here, I wouldn't be surprised if the Zodiac killer probably could feel things very deeply. And this could have been part of what caused them to act the way that they did. This could have been part of what was actually causing them to, you know, to have this drive to do these things, and to also, you know, to also be putting themselves out there. Like, this is probably somebody who wasn't actually acknowledged a lot in their life. I feel like there was a lot of frustration there, an awful lot of frustration. Somebody who was probably quite gifted, I feel, because we've got the Seven of Pentacles here. So this is telling me that the Zodiac killer is somebody who very much felt like they were doing the work, but it wasn't paying off for them. So I feel as though this was actually probably the culmination of, you know, potentially being able to feel this energy like an empath, and being able to take all of this on and not knowing how to, you know, not knowing how to actually deal with it. And I look at times where my anxiety has made me a terrible person. Do you know what I mean? And I say that with love, because I know it brings out the worst in me, something absolutely chronic. And again, mercifully, I've never been angry enough to kill, but it does make me really lose control of my emotions and my urges and things like that at times. You know, so, and seeing that High Priestess with the Queen of Cups, I'm definitely getting that kind of feeling that this person, and we often think of killers as being like quite cold and heartless, because you have to be, right? You have to be cool. You have to be cruel to be able to do that. But do you know what? Sometimes it's not that they're cold and heartless. Sometimes it's that they feel so much, and it's all of this energy and kind of like stuff that's loaded on them. They're not thinking straight. Like, you look at times, like, you know, I remember a time where somebody looked at me in the face and they're like, I know you're not angry at me. I know you're angry at the mushrooms, because I had a meltdown while I was cooking dinner. And who decides to make stuffed mushrooms as a, like, on a busy weekday, midweek meal? Like, I can see now where there was opportunity for improvement in my meal plan. But, and naturally there, and you know, when the mushroom won't peel properly, you know, when like the skin kind of gets stuck to it and it won't peel. And I had to peel enough mushrooms for everybody, and this mushroom wouldn't peel. And I mean, I threw the chopping board, the mushrooms got pegged across the, you know, so... and it was not pleasant. It was not my finest hour. We did not have mushrooms for dinner that night. But I think we all know what it feels like to get to that kind of stage where, you know, you've just literally been pushed to your breaking point, and you're like that tired toddler whose blanket's in the wash. Like, that's literally, and the most frustrating thing for a lot of us is that we're self-aware enough to know that we're being ridiculous. So then you've got that added kind of like, you know, feeling of you've passed your threshold anyway, but then also you're making yourself worse because you're so frustrated with how you're behaving, but you can't stop, and it's a bit of a cycle. And so if we think about how we go through all of these kinds of things, it's not that unfeasible, because I actually have this theory that if somebody has experienced pain in their life, and empaths often do experience pain, whether it's yours or other people's, you know, and anxiety sufferers and people who have a lot of insecurities and things like that, these people also experience a lot of pain in their life and a lot of angst. Like, you can, when you're stuck in your head, you can put yourself through hell. But I have this theory that pain either reconnects you with your purpose, it makes you step back into your personal power, or your pain becomes your poison. So this is really what I'm thinking here. I'm not saying that we should all feel sorry for this person, but I feel, because, you know, again, like, you can be wrong when you're right. So even if we can all sit here being like, yeah, actually, I understand that their actions were still wrong, but I feel as though this was a very frustrated person. I feel as though this was somebody who I think that this was probably, you know, somebody who spent a lot of time alone in their thoughts, whether people realize that or not. You know, and this probably was somebody who felt things so intensely, and this is probably what made that burning kind of desire to, you know, get revenge, and to probably be like, if with this whole feeling, I feel as though this person probably was incredibly intelligent. I feel as though this probably was an incredibly intelligent, gifted person, probably passed over for a lot of, you know, probably passed over for a lot of opportunities in life that they felt they should have get, like probably thought that their career wasn't progressing, their love life wasn't progressing, and all of these things. And you know what, like, saying, and again, I'm not saying that it's enough for me to actually want to, you know, it's not enough for me to have actually wanted to have done anything evil about this. But, you know, for somebody that just feels so unappreciated and they feel so intensely and stuff like that, like, I think this person just wanted to be loved. They just wanted to be loved. They just wanted to be acknowledged. And this was something that was slowly burning, you know, in the back of their mind. And probably every time they didn't get that promotion, or every time that person turned them down for a date, or every, you know, all of these little disappointments in life that can feel like, trust me, I'm not calling them little disappointments. They're, you know, they've made up a lot of, you know, a lot of my angst over the years as well. And you often ask, like, why me? When's it going to be my turn? And, you know, we've all seen situations in life where, you know, somebody who we may not deem to be deserving has gone through, and, you know, like when I was job hunting, one of my favorite ways to torture myself was if I didn't get a job that I'd applied for, once I got the rejection email, I'd I'd stalk LinkedIn until I worked out who got the job, and then I'd sit there comparing our like skills and experience and stuff like that to try and work out what they had that I didn't have, what was wrong with me, why didn't I get this job. Now, as an intuitive psychic now, I can say you didn't get the job because it wasn't your job, and if it's not meant to be, you know, nothing is going to make it work. And if it is meant to be, nothing's going to get in its way. But I wasn't in that space then, and I would. And that's torture. Like that, you know, it's kind of like when you sit there Facebook stalking like your ex-boyfriend, or the guy who turned you down, trying to see what girl is prettier than you, what girl has more than you. Like, we all do this kind of thing, except you couldn't even channel it through social media back when the Zodiac killer was in operation. So this was somebody who was just alone with their thoughts and watching the rest of the world get by and get better and have more and do these kinds of things that this person just wasn't actually able to do. And like, we've got the Hermit and the King of Cups. With that Queen of Cups, this person wanted love. This person wanted love. This person did not have a lot of love. They probably didn't have, I don't even think they had a bad childhood. I'm picking up vibes that more, because, and see, this is the whole thing in life. Things don't have to be wrong to be wrong. So we often try to put these super black and white kind of things, and like, you can't say that you have inner child wounds, or you can't say that you've got these problems in your life if this and this didn't happen to you as a child, right? Like there's a few things that happen to you in your life where they're very commonly accepted as like horrific kind of things, and things that can really impact your life. But there's a whole lot of grey in between people who had like a really difficult upbringing, people who had a really good upbringing. There's a whole lot of grey in between that impacts people. And I feel as though this person probably came from quite a good home. They seem like somebody who probably, you know, had the like suburban, you know, nuclear family kind of, and people probably looked at them and didn't realise that it wasn't all roses under, like, you know, people probably looked at them and were like, that's the dream family, like very nuclear family, probably well respected, you know, and things like that. But dreams can become nightmares really easily when you're in them. And so I feel as though this is somebody who probably had all of their basic needs met, as in this is somebody who, you know, they, I don't think that they starved. I don't think that they were like abused or anything like that, but they're coming through as somebody who also wasn't ever nurtured. They were never nurtured. Nobody was ever proud of them. Nobody was ever, you know, they didn't grow up with those kinds of things, but they yearned for it. And I feel as though this was probably a systematic, like year after year, like, you know, probably watched all the kids at school just effortlessly get into the college of their dreams. And, you know, and then the people that they hung around at school with probably got their dream careers a little bit quicker. They met their partners quicker. They had, you know, and this person probably always felt like they were not getting that kind of stuff. And I feel as though they spend an awful lot of time either in their thoughts or by themselves. And I feel as though it just would have gone around and around in cycles until they actually snapped and started killing people. And I actually think they wanted to get caught as well. I actually think that they may not have acknowledged this, but I actually, like, because with this justice card coming through here, I think this person wanted the notoriety. I think this person actually wanted to get caught and actually wanted to they wanted the recognition. They wanted people to know how, you know, what they were capable of, and they wanted people to see how, you know, like they wanted to be like, yeah, look at me, I tricked you for this long. And, you know, I think they were probably a little bit disappointed that they didn't get caught.
Yeah, I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
Because why else would you write to the newspapers, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Like, hey, if you can figure out my message, then my identity's in it.
Yeah, this was somebody that that felt so misunderstood in the world. And that's really hard too, when you feel misunderstood and when you don't feel as though you've got your not equals, but you know what I mean? Like when you don't feel like you've got your people around you and you are really misunderstood, this is a hard space to be in. And I feel as though, you know, that would have, and they may not have even consciously been aware of this, but I feel as though this is somebody who really was kind of like, you know, if someone had have cracked that code, I feel like they would have felt relief, and they may not have known that. They may, you know, because we have our conscious and our subconscious mind. So, and our subconscious is kind of what drives a lot of it, but it's subconscious. We don't necessarily know about it. So, consciously, they may have been like, yeah, look at me, you're never going to catch me. But deep down, and this is what happens when you do shadow work and stuff like that, as part of your spiritual journey, you work out what's going on deep down and you start to understand things about yourself. If you're in a solutions focused mode, which by the time you get to the stage of being the Zodiac killer, you're probably not quite as solutions focused as you know, somebody else. But you know, this is somebody who on the surface would have been like, aha, look at me, I'm so powerful, yeah, I'm showing you now. But deep down, they probably just wanted people to be, you know, when like you know, when something happens to people and, you know, like, so maybe someone passes away or they get arrested or, you know, all of these kinds of things. And that's when all the information about them comes out. And it's like, oh, she always seemed so lovely. Oh, no, that family was so kind. Like, some people never hear that in their life. Some people never get told what they mean to other people. Some people never get told, like, what's really important to them and stuff like that.
See, oh my gosh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I totally get it.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Makes
total sense.
Yeah, this person, honestly, like, they went about it the wrong way. They absolutely went about it the wrong way. But I feel as though this person didn't have a nurturing mother. I think this person's mother was probably quite closed and quite cold, because I've just pulled some more cards about who they were. We have the 5 of Cups and the 5 of Pentacles. Now, you can both see this, but anybody listening to this, like, these are cards of sadness. You don't even need to look at them.
They do look sad.
You don't need to be able to read tarot to know that, like, we've got a very wilted rose. We've got a very full-on looking horse, okay? This person had a lot of sadness. This person also didn't know who they could actually trust either. So, and guess what card I just dropped? I just dropped the Empress card, which is the mother card. This is the mum of the tarot deck. So this person I'm telling you, did not have a loving mother. And she may have been doing her best. She may have genuinely been doing her best, because I always think in life, maybe not so much with serial killers, but in general, it's your life is easier when you assume everybody's doing the best that they can. But the harsh reality is not everybody's best is good enough, okay? And, you know, so if this was somebody who, like, she may have grown up, like, really poor and in a bad sort of family situation herself. And so she may have felt that by, like, working so hard and, you know, trying to provide, like, she may have thought that material things were more important to her family because she probably grew up without material things. Do you know what I mean? And so, but her focus on material things meant that she wasn't giving the love and the care. She probably didn't know how to because she probably didn't ever receive it herself. But yeah, with this Empress card and all this sadness, and we've got the Seven of Swords, which is a real kind of mistrust. And we've got this this Son of Pentacles on Page of Pentacles. This is somebody who's meant to go on a growth journey, but they didn't have anyone to teach them how to grow. I don't think that this Zodiac killer had a good role model in their life. I think that they knew exactly what they wanted. I feel as though they were really, really ambitious, and they probably had quite good goals for what they wanted to achieve in life, but this person just didn't ever kind of get that. Probably all they needed was just for, like, one teacher or one parent or one person to just kind of reciprocate the, like, I feel as though this person probably was someone who sold their soul a little bit, like was a people pleaser, which I know sounds like most people would be pleased not to get killed. I know that sounds really strange when you're talking about a murderer, but I feel as though this person probably did try to live their life doing everything perfectly so that they could actually, you know, so that they were actually able to get that love, that care, that nurturing. I don't know that they know that that's what they wanted. And again, it can be really hard with the wounded kind of men, because, you know, like if we look at that era when the Zodiac killer was in, it wasn't even easy. Like, women's intuition has always been a thing for centuries. This is why people think I'm a witch, you know. It's very widely accepted that women have these kind of powers and stuff like that. It's not so accepted that men do. And, you know, women have also always been able to gossip and chat with their friends and talk about their feelings, and that's always been, and you know, that would be a whole other podcast to talk about all the issues associated with everything that women have ever been through in our lives and things like that. Right. But as a rule, generally women are a little bit more sort of, even back in those days, like if a woman was sitting there crying to her girlfriend because she felt like nobody loved her, that's more acceptable. Like, even now, who does a man cry to when they feel unlovable and things like that, right? Like,
right. They don't. Yeah.
They don't. And they don't have the same act. Like, obviously mental health and support accesses and all these kinds of things are big issues. But, you know, like, a lot of men wouldn't be able to, like, women don't always know what we're doing either when someone starts, like, crying. But it's like that instinct just kicks in and we're like, they're there, you know, and we kind of always manage to, we feel awkward but we always kind of work out what we want to say, and we, you know, we probably second guess ourselves, but we probably fake it a little bit better. Whereas, you know, imagine if you had two men standing there and one of them just burst into tears, like,
right.
Unless you mention something like, oh, like I've just lost a family member or a pet or something like that, there's no way. Right. The other guy would just be like, what are you crying about? Like, so I feel as though this Zodiac killer didn't get any love in their life. They never got love in their life. And I actually feel like, and see, this is where being an, because now we're like, oh, like, but you know what? But this is the whole thing, because I am seeing someone that was very ambitious, very talented, had high goals. But this is why. I'm not saying that if you don't go after your own dreams, you're going to be a serial killer, but this is why we have to be so in touch with what's right for us. And we have to just trust that inner voice for what is actually right for us at any given moment, because nobody's going to do it for us. It's us. It's always on us, and nobody's ever going to do it for us. You know, we've got to do it for ourselves. We've got to do it even if we don't get any acknowledgement. We've got to, you know, and this is one of the hardest pills to swallow in life, is that you often don't get acknowledgement. But you know what? Yeah. I could say things like, oh, I've had 600 clients and only 100 of them have left feedback for me, so only 100 of them appreciated it. 100 of them appreciated it, and 2 appreciated it to the point where I'm now on a podcast getting to do this, and this is cool and exciting. Okay, so which one am I going to focus on? Like, who even cares about the rest? Do you know what I mean? But we do. We always care. Like, it's our nature, if we haven't done that work on ourselves, to care about the rest, to focus on that. You know, to focus on that one bad thing. Like, how many times do you look at you know,
It's
like
true. It's true.
small business owners and things like that who might have like pages of 5-star reviews and with beautiful comments where people love them, and then one person leaves a 1-star review and the person just about wants to close their business because they're crippled by it, and they're like, oh my gosh, that like I can't. And it's like, look at the dozens, look at everybody else, that one little thing doesn't matter. And this is why when we feel like we've got to do something, even if you get a job that everybody else would love, like you're working at a football team, and you know, particularly in my town where I live, we're a very sports mad kind of city and things like that. So there's a lot of people where if you said, oh yeah, I left the football team to be a tarot reader, there's a lot of people that be like, you should have left and gone to the asylum, lady, like what is wrong with you? But you know what? I was at a point where it didn't matter if it didn't make sense to anybody else, and it didn't make sense to a lot of people. It made sense to me, and it felt right to me. And this is why, because he's got the Magician and the Son of Wands and this total fire energy here. This is somebody who didn't reach their potential. This is somebody who did not reach their potential in the slightest, and desperately wanted to.
They snapped.
They snapped something fierce and literally probably just needed a cuddle and to be told you're doing a really good job and I love you. Like,
Yep. That is insane. Yeah. We always focus. People always do focus on any negative versus all the good.
And I have a freelance writing client who's like, you know, and this is the whole thing. I knew that this contract had become untenable. I knew we weren't going to be able to finish the job properly. So we were at a point where I'd received enough payment for what I'd done to date. And she, you know, we were literally at that milestone point where what she paid for, she had exactly what she paid for. So I was just like, no, we're leaving, because you can't, like, I have spent so many years, nearly 40 years trying to make other people happy. And at no point has it ever made other people happy. Or no, that's a bit dramatic. It's like, I'm sure some people were very happy with it, but I'm not, do you know what I mean? I'm not happy. And we have to reach that point where we just have to say, I'm sorry, but with the most love I've got in the world, if I'm not happy, I don't care about you. I don't care if you're happy or not, because, and that sounds harsh and it goes against everything that we believe in. But
that's where I'm at these days.
And it's the best place to be, honestly, you know, and because obviously I feel like I've got a pretty good line of contact with the universe. So I feel like I can get, but you know what? This is also why you shouldn't fear the worst happening to you. Like if you had have asked me last year, is being fired and unemployed the worst thing that could happen? You would have been like, yes, I can't do that. No, there's no way I can go through that. Been through it. So do you know what I mean? Like when you sometimes you just have to let go of that control, let go of all of that fear and stuff like that. Not start killing people. I can't express that enough, but
do not kill people.
But you need to energetically kill off these things that are draining you and are stopping you from living your best life, because it is so, and it's scary, because who walks away from jobs, who walks away from contracts, who walks away from paying business, but what price are you paying if you don't? Like, actually, what price are you paying if you don't? So I and it's hard, because let me tell you, like after I first cancelled this lady who's now doing the dispute, this poor guy rang me, right? And this is just, and he just wanted to have a casual catch up. I was hysterically crying and, you know, like not my finest, but because these things do have it. So I also don't ever want people to think that, because I actually had a psychic tell me once that people are going to think I'm really lucky. And it was actually quite funny, because literally the day I'd had that tarot reading done, where someone said to me, people are going to think you are so lucky. I was taking my dogs for a walk, and I, you know, like your dog does poo, you have to pick the poo up and dispose of it. The dog poo bag broke. Literally the day that somebody had said to me, people are going to think you were so lucky. And I remember standing there on the beach trying to work out what on earth to do. And because I have large dogs, like this is not, do you know what I mean? I'm just like, I hope you think I'm lucky now, everybody. Like, I hope you think I'm lucky now. But do you know what I realized? People now at this point in my life, people probably do think I'm really lucky, because like if someone said to their friends and family, I'm going to quit my job and I'm going to be a tarot reader, people would be like, are you crazy? You're going to be on unemployment. But my business is growing. Like, do you know what I mean? So people probably do think, and obviously, like, I don't want to downplay things either, because clearly this is my calling. Clearly this is what I'm supposed to be doing. But I do think that there probably are a lot of people who don't look at it in terms of like, this is somebody who's really worked out what alignment feels like to her and is protecting that at any cost. It's like, oh, her business is working. She started a business. Like, and people would listen to your podcast and be like, they know what they're doing. They're funnier than me, you know, and you are. Like, you're very funny people. This is like,
Aw.
we need to play on it. But do you know what? We need to play on our strengths, because how many times in life do I say something like, oh my gosh, I really love that episode. I was really interested in it. And you're like, oh yeah, but you know, we didn't really know what we were talking about. And we went off script a few times, and how many times do people do that, right? Like, whereas it should be like, oh, thank you so much. I'm so glad that you enjoyed it. Like that needs to be a whole statement where we have to be proud. We have to be so proud of ourselves and what we do. And we have to know that what we do is not going to be for everybody, and that is okay. But we also have to know that what we do actually brings value to people, actually has otherwise, because this is how we end up in our bedrooms, like sitting there thinking of these cryptic you know, codes to send to newspapers to finally get the recognition and the love, and the, like, you know, hopefully not all of us end up there, but you know, when you hear it like that, it's kind of like, yeah, I can kind of
Chelsea,
see.
I feel like you're telling me what Nayoka has already told me. Like, it's so weird.
Well, it's
just
funny
so
that you
weird.
say that, because this is something that I tell people when it comes to listening to your intuition, because often the conversations that we have with people, we either speak our intuition or they are giving us messages that we don't, you know, they may not even understand fully, like they may not understand it like the universe is telling them to have that conversation. But there are times when you're like, literally, people think that like they have to get these special little whispers in their ear to get psychic messages through, like clairaudience, which is through hearing. But no, literally, it can be a song lyric. It can be a conversation. It can be, and you know, there was a day where this girl I worked with, and we had worked in this building for 3 years together. I don't even think I used to say good morning to her. I literally don't think I used to say good morning to her. Not, like if she said good morning to me, I did not say good morning back.
Right.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like, and this is why I needed to leave that job too, because I was literally at the point where, like, if somebody came into the kitchen while I was filling up my water bottle and you had to say good morning to somebody else, and you're just like, I don't want to, like, you know, and because I sat right near the kitchen as well. I sat right near the kitchen. So everybody, every time they walk past to get a coffee or something, you would stop and chat to you, and you're just like, I'm so sick of small talk. Like, just leave me alone, you know. And I'm a people person, but see, this is the whole thing. When you feel energy as well, you've got to manage your own, because when you take on other people's energy, sometimes your cup is full, and like someone saying good morning to you can be deeply triggering, because it's, you know, it's just too much. But this girl and we didn't ever like actively talk to each other, but again, hopefully I was polite enough to respond. Must have been though, because she's now one of my best friends. So all's well that ends well. But it was just one day we were seated together at a training session, right? We were just seated together at a training session, and I didn't want to be at the training session either, for the record, because I was a communications girl and it was a sales training thing. But, you know, you have to do like professional development. So therefore they would tick it off that the comms girls went and did their 2 hours worth of PD for the, you know, that was not going to help us at all, but whatever. And so we were seated there, and I have never felt her energy was just incredible. It was magnetic, and I ended up demanding to have her in my team. And we became super, super good friends. But it was one day she said to me, she's like, oh, and you know, I get my angel numbers through license plates. So when I was driving to work, I saw blah, blah, blah on a license plate. And I was like all ears, because I, at that stage, didn't understand all the ways that I could get signs from the universe. So I thought that feathers were my sign. That's cool. Numbers on number plates to hers. That's okay. Everything signs, we are getting bombarded with them all the time. It's up to us to notice them. Anyway, when I was driving home that afternoon, or I went out for lunch or something, but I was driving the day that I had that conversation with her, and I started to see every single number plate was having like my favorite number combos on it and things like that. And I was like, no way. No, you are reading too much into this. And then this car drove past, and you know, like when you say like ta-da, like, you know, that kind of thing. So this number plate drove past that had TDA, because in Australia, where I live in my state, we have 3 letters and 3 numbers on our number plates. And so this said ta-da, and I could hear my dad's voice. My dad's passed away. I could hear my dad's voice very clearly being like ta-da, like when, you know, and I was just like, holy heck, number plates are actually a thing for me. And they are actually a thing for me. But I didn't even know to look at them until Annette just happened to mention that in conversation. And, you know, and so that we need to listen to the things that we're here, like we need to truly listen to the things that we're hearing and not just assume that, oh, well, she gets hers from license plates, but I get feathers. Like if somebody says something to you, often there is actually truth in it. And also there's often a lot of truth in what we say to others. Now, I can't read tarot for myself. I probably can, because that's quite a limiting belief to say you can't do something. But, literally I'd pull like the sun card, which is all about happiness. And like you look at the card and it looks really happy. And I'd be like, well, my life's never going to go well again, obviously, because you just get a little bit too attached to your own outcomes and things like that. So, but do you know what? I actually think that part of why I've been called to be a tarot reader is probably because I get so many messages for myself when I am actually reading for others as well. And, these are messages that people respond to really well and say that, yep, that totally resonated with me. But I get the messages for myself as well, where it's almost like my spirit guides are poking me in the belly and being like, are you listening to yourself? Can you hear that? Because often we speak intuitively when we're speaking to others, but we speak from fear when we're speaking to ourselves.
I don't know what happens.
No, you guys just totally froze. And when when you're talking to somebody on the phone and you can kind of hear that when you like take a breath and then you kind of like, oh, I think the call's dropped out, and you're like, at what point did it drop out?
Yes.
At what point did they stop hearing me?
I got so distracted with like it freezing up.
Well, let's take that as a sign from the universe that bit wasn't part of our message then.
You were talking about the sun.
Yeah, no, okay. So because that literally we literally do we give psychic messages out. The words that come out of our own mouths are sometimes our own intuition speaking, and this is why I can't read for myself, because I will pull the worst possible meaning from the cards that, probably isn't even strictly tech. I will bend
Sounds
and
like
mold.
something we do.
Yeah.
Because you do.
Yeah.
Whereas because I'm too emotionally attached to my outcome and I don't believe good things happen to me and, all of these kinds of things. But when I'm reading for other people, I'm emotionally attached to making sure that I give people the best message and I really tune into what they need to hear. So you will get a far more sort of like objective and better quality reading than what I give for myself. So, but in saying that though, I will be giving readings for others, and it is literally like my spirit guides are poking me in the side, being like, I hope you're listening to yourself. I hope you're paying attention, or something will happen too. Like, I will get like, one of my feathers will move behind me or something like that. Or, I will get like a dragonfly come up to my window or something like while I'm saying something really specific. Because we speak to others, we tend to speak to others using our intuition, but we tend to speak to ourselves using our fears and insecurities and things like that. So it literally, if somebody is saying something to you, or if you were saying something, because life is a mirror, okay? Life is always a mirror. So sometimes as well, like, I'm sitting here telling you that you need to put yourself first. You need to put strong boundaries in place. You need to, you need to do all of these things. Do you too, Chelsea? Are you doing that too, Chelsea? Like, and because who takes their own advice? Like literally nobody, right? Like we and often we give out the biggest gems and people are like, oh my gosh, thank you. That meant so much to me, but we don't listen to it for ourselves. We never listen to it for ourselves. So, definitely those things that you say to each other, sometimes it might just be having a little bit of a natter and a chat. Sometimes you're probably actually giving each other messages that you specifically, because the universe is going to get things to you however they can, and they're not afraid to double text. They're not afraid to like quadruple text if they have to, so if a red balloon is your sign that something good is going to happen to you, and they've shown you like 2 red balloons today, they've made someone text you and tell you how amazing you are, and you're still not getting it, then they're probably going to get somebody to stand there and tell you how amazing you are and that good things are going to happen to you.
Aww.
Because literally, because the universe loves you. Yeah. Yeah, no, there's so much love. There's so much love pouring into us from the universe, from our spirit guides. And this is partly how we heal those things, like what the Zodiac killer has had, where they haven't had that love in their life and things like that. This is how we heal it, by the love that we get. And I actually said that to a fellow empath one day, because like this girl, I just wanted to cry when this was at one of my live tarot tents that I do in my town from time to time. And like she just sat down and she just had the weight of the world on her shoulders. She had taken on too much. She had given too much. She had poured too much of herself out. And like I said to her, this is partly why the more in tune you are with the universe, this is why you get such amazing signs, because she has a feather collection that rivals mine, for example, and stuff like that. And, you know, people don't think that like the signs that I find are real, because I find so many and they're so amazing and stuff like that. But it's because I'm so open to them, and it's because I can. And some people will be like, oh, you turn anything into a sign. That butterfly was just flying past. Oh, okay. Well, excuse me if I chose to get excited and see that that's as a sign of being hopeful and optimistic and things like that. You know, like, as long as you're not attaching, as long as it's not like, okay, only if I see a butterfly fly past right now am I going to believe that I marry Liam Hemsworth in January 2022. Like, you can't attach things that are that specific to your signs, because you know what? If you do, the universe will give you that sign. I promise you, they will give you that sign, because sometimes we ask for signs when we know full well what the answer is, and we're just trying to sort of we're trying to avoid the truth. We're trying to, you know, and so sometimes the universe will give you fake signs, either because you're being ridiculous and you're putting and you need to learn a lesson there, or they'll give you fake signs as well because sometimes they know you're not quite emotionally equipped enough to be able to handle the situation. So they're just like, because there was a night where I was really upset and I was asking for heaps of signs, and pretty much, which never happens, as soon as I got it, as soon as I would ask for something, I would see it. This would happen like pretty much straight away. And that never happened. Like, I can call in signs quickly, but this was instant. And so I went to bed thinking that everything was happy and everything was all right. Actually, everything was a total opposite to what I'd been asking about, but that was the point. And I genuinely think that in that case, the universe was like, just shut up and agree with her, guys. Just whatever she asked for, throw it at her right now.
Let her go to sleep.
Yeah, literally the universe put me to bed. The universe put me to bed, you know, to have a sleep and to wake up in the morning. And then sort of like over the next sort of day or two, I started to unravel like what was actually going on. But you know what? Sometimes that thought that you have that you're trying to have clarified, or you're trying to have like rejected, like where you kind of like, okay, universe, so you're telling me that I need to stay in this job forever. And you know you've got to quit. You know deep down that you've got to quit, but it's scary. And so you're clinging to anything that's going to stop you from having to step into that discomfort of actually having to quit that job, because that's hard and it's scary, and you might have to have a little mini confrontation with someone, right? And so, you know, sometimes the universe will be like, yeah, here's your butterfly, Chelsea, but you're still going to quit your job and go through that discomfort at some stage. So but if you are only assigning like sort of nice positive sort of like, you know, like I see a butterfly and it just makes me smile. It makes me smile. You know, and I do. It makes me think about change, transformation, freedom, happiness, all of these kinds of things. It, like, who cares whether the universe put that butterfly there for me or not? Like, where is the badness in me seeing those signs and getting that kind of feeling from it? And this is what I was saying to this poor girl who was just like so past her level, and she was probably semi at the point where the Zodiac killer was at, except she was never going to kill anybody else, but she was, you know, she was probably just at the point where she was going to give up on ever having hopes and dreams for herself. And I explained to her that when you feel things as deeply as we do, this is sometimes why we get the magic of those signs, like where your tarot reader is going to tell you about a song that's then going to play, that's then going to, do you know what I mean? Like when you get to experience those little bits of magic, that's like the payoff for being so sensitive. It's like, yeah, okay, you might feel like the weight of the world, you might feel like it's all too much at the moment, but look at this magic that is happening right around you, you know, and because you're so in tune, all these things that you're thinking are wrong is why you're able to see the rightness of being able to pick up on that. Because there's so many people that just like, you know, you could literally like hit them and stand there with a big sign that says, Chelsea, you need to do this. And I'd still be like, oh, they're talking to another Chelsea, obviously, you know, like there are some people who just totally ignore the signs that they're getting. And, you know, but those of us that are in tune to it, we open up such a world of magic and such a world of like hope. And I mean, I am useless at the trust and surrender part. Like if ever you talk to anyone spiritual, they will tell you to trust and surrender. They will tell you the universe has your back and you don't need to worry about how, you just need to trust it will happen. I'm useless at it. I can't give you any advice on how to do that because I can't. I still hang on to like, I'm still marrying Liam Hemsworth in January 2022. I don't care what anybody else says. Okay. I'm still hanging on to that.
I'm going to be really jealous.
I am still hanging on to that, but, you know, but this is what gives us the hope, and it is what helps us keep going when we can notice these kind of signs in the magic. And do you know what? Maybe if the Zodiac killer had been a little bit more in tune to his signs from the universe, he might have felt that love pouring back into him, and found ways to sort of rise above it and not end up
That's so true.
where he ended up.
And seriously,
Yeah.
again, I gotta say, when it comes to the signs and everything, you guys have to check out Chelsea and her readings, and you will experience it. I promise you, because every single time I have, and you know I have,
Yeah, she has.
it's been
Even yes, do you know? And I think my favorite part might be my reactions as well, because I want to go back to the reading I did for you yesterday and screenshot when that door opened, because like it was at this exact right moment, and like I keep looking at the door behind me now on the Zoom, and I'm like, just don't open again. Yeah, I know, literally, because you know when that. Like with what I was saying, and as that door opened, and then when I'm just like the look on my face, I was just like, holy heck. And then I'm like, I'm just going to look up what a door opening means spiritually. And it was literally bang on for everything that we were talking about at the time. And my job satisfaction comes from those moments. It comes from my facial expressions. Where
I love your facial expressions while you're reading me.
Excited.
I know. I know it's going to be a good, because your face, you'll be like it when you're pulling it. You're saying it, I'm like, I love this so much.
And now you know why. Now you know why I had to go down the tarot route instead of the serial killer route when I was struggling and feeling unloved. It's because I have no poker face. You can read me like a book, so I cannot. Like this is why I cannot choose crime, because everybody can read me like a book. You can see when I'm excited. You can see when I'm feeling something. But yeah, I love those moments so much, and that is what brings me the satisfaction. But because do you know what? Like I love the magic in that as well. I love the magic that like I've never had a door just like open, and obviously in this room there's not it's not a challenge universe.
Special.
Yeah, no, literally, I've never ever had that happen before, but it happened, and just the feeling that I got when it opened as well, and you know, which as evidenced by how low my jaw dropped, like you know,
I loved it.
How exciting that I can still get that kind of magic as well, where it's not like me just rolling my eyes being like, oh, the door's opening again, so you've got a new beginning. Like I love that I can still get that magic and that excitement from it, and that the universe can find ways to like surprise and delight me while giving you like exactly the message that you need to hear at the time.
And you know what else is like validating to me is I've had like a few readings from you already, and a lot of them have the same cards every time. Now I don't know how many cards people think are in a tarot deck, but there's a good amount, and you're using several different ones. And when you're pulling the same cards, like on some of, I don't know, I'm like, wow, like it's not messing around. Like this
it's not it like
what it says.
As much as it is kind of like I shuffle the cards and randomly pull them out,
yes,
there's not as much randomness in it as you would think. And you know, as you've seen, I will use multiple decks, and sometimes I will bust out a deck that we haven't read for, you know, it's a deck we haven't used before. You know, and like there was one literally yesterday where I was like, oh, this is a new deck. I've not used this one before. I'm just going to read it straight from the book. Because the way that it nailed what we were talking about at the time.
I know.
Like it was blowing my mind as well. It was just like, oh my gosh. And you know, because I will use these different cards and stuff like that. And and then the same messages come out, which is kind of like the universe putting things in bold, underlined, italic. Massive
it's
font.
Amazing.
This is when they're walking up to you, hitting you with that sign. That's
they are. I know. When you're hitting like the same cards multiple times, and you're like, wow. I mean, the odds of that. What are the odds of that?
But what's great too is that Nayoka and I were talking earlier was that you don't just like you're sitting there reading cards. You also put your personal experiences, or it's I don't know. It's like talking to a friend.
It is.
Yeah, and this is
it really is.
This is why I do it, because I've just sat here and said how badly the Zodiac killer needed a friend, right? And I know that the times in my life, so I get tarot readings at a couple of points in my life. Like now I'm a reader myself. It's not like this, but before I started being confident in my abilities, I used to get sort of like my regular annual check-in, almost like a, you know, annual planning kind of thing. But if something turned to crap in my life, I'd be like, I need a tarot reading. I need to know what to do here. This is, you know, and so many people, and no hate to them or anything like that. But, and we're certainly not going to discuss how much money I've spent on tarot readings before I could claim them as tax deductions like I can now. Because, you know, you want to talk about manifesting money and stuff like that, probably that's where my $1 million is. But do you know what I mean? Like I did spend a lot of money because I was in a desperate kind of place where I wanted certainty and I wanted this kind of stuff. And you often didn't get certainty from that because you don't, okay? And I understand now that you're not supposed to get certainty, but I find it really hard when, you know, someone sort of holds up a card and they're like, oh, look, this is the Empress, so there's a mothering energy around you. And then it's like, oh, this is justice, so this means this is going to, like, I like to put my personal spin on it because you can't, like, you know, sometimes you're just at that point, and I don't know if anyone's a TikTok user, like, there's that trend going around with the Miley song where it's like, what do you mean kind of thing, like, and because sometimes you do walk away from readings being like, yeah, but what do you mean, is it all, like, is it going to all work out okay? So when I started this business, it was really important to me to be the kind of reader that I needed back when I was at that point where I was like getting all these readings and stuff like that. I wanted to, and because even this is part of it too, like, and this is why I'm going so hard on the spiritual content as well, because it's really, really hard to find. I found it hard to find information because often I'll be reading something and I agree with it up until a certain point, and then it gets a little bit weird for me, and, you know, it doesn't resonate anymore. And I think that's just because, honestly, I don't think that any of us are really wrong. I think it's just that the universe is going to connect us up with people who, like, the reason why you and I came to each other is because you are going to feel like a friend, because we are going to feel like friends and things like that. Whereas, like, there's probably some people who are just going to be like, wow, Chelsea sucks. Like, I don't want to, and they're just not my people. So somebody else will be teaching them in a way that makes sense to them. But I found it so hard, and it was so confusing what I was going through, like with all my signs and stuff like that. I found it so hard and so confusing, and I was struggling. I didn't know how to be uncomfortable. I didn't know how to be sad, or I knew how to be sad, but I didn't know how to, like, I was literally almost sick of myself and I didn't know what to do. So this is the kind of thing, like, because literally the cards obviously have like set meanings, and then my intuition will kick in as well, and I can kind of apply, you know, because you pick up a card and it can have many different linked and sort of themed, but the way that it can be applied can be a little bit different. And then I've got my intuition, but I just find that by putting those personal stories in there, it just really kind of, like, you know, because sometimes that's what I need. I'm very much yeah, okay, what you're saying makes sense. It's all going to balance out, but what do you mean it balances out, you know? And that's why I tell people things like, you know, when I say sometimes you're not meant to know something, this is what I mean. Would I have left that job and gotten fired if I'd got known? Because you kind of need to give people that kind of, because if I just said you're not going to get a yes no answer, people would be like, oh, this dodgy lady's just taking my money and she's only going to read my cards. Whereas, you know, for me, it is about that whole, this is why I want you to understand the process. I want you to have something that's not just like because, you know, let's face it, we tend to get readings when we've got something really specific going on in our life, and it's kind of like, you know, like, for example, Liam Hemsworth has just gotten into a relationship with somebody else, but I'm marrying him in January 2022. The nice tarot lady. The nice tarot lady needs to tell me how long this horrible relationship's going to last for him, and specifically what date he and I get together, you know, and that's the only way I'm going to be okay. And unfortunately, life doesn't work like that. Life does not work like that. I struggle with the fact that life doesn't work like that as well. But, you know, that's why I try to talk to people so much about what they're actually going through and stuff like that. And I do want people to feel like friends and to sort of come back and connect, and, you know, not just from like a let me read for you again because this is my job and I need you to, but from I genuinely love this. And, you know, things like it helps me really learn as well. And because I'm trying to kind of piece together, because this is the thing, no one truly has this understanding of it all. Like, I can tell you a lot, and obviously I sound quite knowledgeable, and I am, based on all these things that I've sort of like captured over the last couple of years. But do I have a whole complete picture of it? No. You know, like, even I'm currently trying to really learn astrology at the moment, because I noticed, for example, that of the most significant men in my life of recent times, one was born on the 12th of January, one was born on the 14th of January. And does anyone want to take a guess at what date Liam Hemsworth's birthday is?
Is it the 16th?
It's the 13th. It is the 13th. So that goes 12, 13, 14, right? Like,
yeah. Oh my gosh.
And I have not worked out the correlation yet, but I'm going to. Like,
I believe you.
Yeah, I'm going to work out what this correlation is. You know, so I'm teaching myself that kind of thing. But this is the kind of thing, because I know stuff like that happens in the world, and you're like, how does this happen? What does this mean? And it's like, and, you know, obviously I can read cards and give some meanings, but I kind of want to understand the universe's theory behind it, if that makes sense. Like, I want to sort of understand some of those links and some of those ways to kind of do it, because also then, you know, like because clearly it's going to show up that these people are my soulmate. Like, you know, this is clearly, like, I'm clearly honed in on the area that I need to be in. So just repeating again for the universe, marrying Liam Hemsworth in January 2022. But, you know, I want to try and learn this kind of stuff. So I'm so glad when people, because you don't have to tell me personal details when you get a reading from me either. Like, I don't mind. And I honestly don't mind if people never come back to me at all, because they're personal, and I get personal as well. Like, I find out the most intimate kind of stuff about people. You know, like some of my reviews, and these are the ones that I love the most, is the ones where they're like, I felt so seen. I felt so, you know, and you're like, good, I'm so glad I could give that to you. But that's also a little bit confronting for some people as well. Like, it is a little bit creepy sometimes when you're like, how the hell is this weird lady in Australia that I've never met before, and I just purchased on Etsy, it's not even like we were exchanging energy at all, how did she know, you know? And
That's
so
amazing.
And I don't know how I know. I don't know how I know. I do know. I know that I know, obviously, and I want to try and understand that. And I also attract quite a lot of clients, like you're talking about how you've got cards, your intuition and stuff like that. But we'll have your tarot business set up before the end of 2022, I'm telling you, because I do attract a lot of people who are at the stage where, do you know what I mean? Like, a lot of my clients also read for themselves, but they don't think that they're a tarot reader yet, because they don't think they're good enough, or they don't think they know the cards, or they don't think all of this. Trust me, I didn't think I was either. I did my first reading for a stranger literally because at this job that I had that I got fired from, we had this platform where you could do exchange tarot readings, but none of us knew how it worked. None of us understood the customer journey. And so I signed up as a customer, as an employee, to map out the journey, because we didn't know what happened. Like, there'd been a missing link in the company at some point in time. We wanted to make these improvements, but we didn't know what that journey was. And I was like, oh, I can't do a free tarot. I can't give someone a tarot reading. Like, I'm not a tarot reader. I just like pull cards every now and then, you know. And so I went into a Facebook group to kind of like learn how to, like, just to get some feedback, because I wanted to know what bad things people were going to say, so that I could try and fake it for when I did it. No one said bad things. Nobody said bad things. Like, they all said the most amazing things, and I was a little bit shocked at how I nailed it as well. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I gave this person her reading, and I got one back, and hilariously, and like, I disclosed that I worked for the company. So of course I was never going to give the person bad feedback who gave me a reading, but she predicted career change, changing jobs, like all these things. And I was smiling and nodding and business. And you did. I've gone back to her and told her, and I've been like, guess what? Like, this is what you said for me. This is what actually happened. Because like I said, sometimes we don't know why we say things. Do you know what I mean? Like, we just know that we have to say this. We don't necessarily understand why. And when we hear that, and it's okay if people don't want to give us that personal information back, but when we hear how, and that specific bit, it's like what I said before about how when you feel where the emotions are in your body, because it means, you know, like the other day, I just randomly decided I needed to pull from this particular deck that I haven't even used for about a month for this girl. And that card, that feather that was on that card, ended up being like pretty much the whole crux of her whole reading. That was the bit that meant the most to her. And you don't always know. And I don't question these things now. I'm just like, I'm doing this because it feels like it's going to matter. It's going to matter to them, but we don't know why. So that feedback is really essential. But I genuinely didn't think that I could be a tarot reader. And when I started, like, when I got fired, I went out, because I write a little, like, a newsletter every week about spiritual kind of stuff. And I went out to my newsletter group, and at this stage it was like only a group of like about 10 of my friends. And I'm like, I
joined that. You guys need to do that too.
Oh, you should. You should. You love it. It's its first birthday at the moment. Like, I'm so excited and so proud of myself. And again, I put so much raw kind of stuff in there. Like, I literally explain like the signs that I see through the week and because it's one thing to read, like, if you see a feather, it's going to mean this, but I tell you how I found that feather, what I felt, all these kinds of things around it, because
I do that too, don't I?
Yeah, really. Yeah.
So funny.
Yeah, because like I said, you're going to be running your own tarot business by the end of 2022.
Oh my God.
Because literally the people that I meet, none of us think we can do it properly. None of us think we're good enough. I only opened my shop, which is now my passion and my calling and clearly what I'm meant to be doing. I only opened it because I got fired and I was unemployed and I didn't think that I'd find a job before Christmas. So therefore I would, if I just, and I thought I was an e-commerce success story when I made a sale on my first day. I was like, oh,
right. You're like, awesome.
Peak. I've just nailed it. This is amazing. And I was still, it was for the longest time, I was expecting someone to tap me on the shoulder and be like, why are you selling tarot readings? You have no business doing this, despite the fact that the feedback that was coming back was so good. And I attract a lot of clients like that who are where I was, who don't understand how much talent we have, because who tells you that you're ready to be a tarot reader? Who tells, like me? Okay, I'm going to.
It's funny is I got my first deck in high school. I was like 14 or 15. And then I got another deck. And then I was a hairdresser and we would sit there after work and people would be like, my friends would be like, let's do a tarot reading. So I would do that, but I would have to look up everything. And I don't know. I just put them down.
You've already done it.
Yeah, for friends.
Wow.
Trying to learn. I was trying to learn the cards, but that's a lot of cards. And I applaud you. It's a lot of cards,
but do you know what? This is what I'm going to teach people too. You don't actually have to, we think we have to know them and memorize them and almost play like a flashcard game with them, right?
Yes.
No, you don't. Okay. No, you don't, because, and it's okay. I used to at first too. Up until when I started doing these recording ones, but even when I was doing the recordings, I'll shuffle the cards and just talk on camera because I've done it so many times. I'm used to it. But I used to, and thank gosh, I was only making one sale a month at this point in time because this was not a sustainable business model. But I would shuffle the cards. I would have a really deep look at it, and then I would write out in a Google document what I thought the meanings were, and then I would go to my favorite websites for resources and I would look up every single one and almost mark myself. And then I would record it about 5 times because I'd be really anxious about it. Then I would watch the recording and then I would finally package it up and send it to the customer.
Okay.
Who would then turn around and be like, oh my gosh, how did you know that about me? Oh my gosh, that was the most accurate thing ever. And it's just taken me 12 hours to do because I felt that I had no business doing this and I wasn't good enough at it and stuff like that. And it's just literally the kind of thing you have, the more you do it, the more confident and comfortable that you feel in it.
That's awesome.
But yeah, but people, and this is probably why that psychic told me that people will think I'm lucky, because people are like, look at her, she knows the cards so well and she does her presentation so well. No, she doesn't. She used to spend hours sitting there stressing and wanting to send the video. And I do have some friends that I sent videos to back when I first started out to get them to watch it and see if it was of a quality to actually give to although there was one in particular, because I had my first client who was undergoing cancer treatment, and I was like, oh, this is such a touchy subject to talk. I want to give this the love that it needs, because I'm very private about the readings as well, but I didn't trust my own skills. So I'd be like, is this the way to do it? And so none of you look at the other tarot readers, and none of you look at us and think that any of us do. You all think that we just know the cards and that we just know. No. We are not as far away from you as you think we are.
Look at that. I've learned so much.
Yeah.
And I will say Chelsea has learned a lot about me in such a short period of time.
I have.
What do I need to do?
But it's a two-way exchange. You also pretty much know my life story now at this point in time as well, because we have been having so many readings together lately that I've run my usual stories. I'm onto new stories now. So but it is an exchange, and it definitely is an exchange where I will give people back what. Do you know what I mean? It's not like I just take from you and just read into all of your intimate secrets. You find out pretty personal things that you can take from my experiences and apply to your life as well.
There we go.
Yeah.
Gosh, our internet's getting spotty. I
so
guess
is mine, and it's sort of
it's weird.
You've done enough. You're I've done my bit. I gave you an hour-long Zoom, so now I'm done. It's time for my coffee break. And you're like, look, mate, for what I pay you a month, no, you're not. No, yeah.
That's hilarious.
What I pay you a month, go and get my coffee for me and stop being
that
so
is
patchy.
Hilarious. I seriously thank you so much for coming on here. It means so much to me.
This was so exciting. So fun.
No, thank you. I can't thank you. you don't even know, like I'm 40 in February and I'm like trying to put together a list of achievements, because you know how we usually do like things I want to do before my birthday. I want to celebrate the things that I have done that are pretty awesome. And do you know how many of them are going to be from this last 12 months? And like getting invited to be on a podcast, like this is, I feel like I've peaked. Do you know what I mean? Like, look at me. Like,
that's how I feel.
Yeah, like literally, do you know what I mean? Like, so this is going to go on the list because it was honestly such an honor, you know, to be invited to be included, because what you guys do is so good. And I know how like much work and effort and passion and heart and hustle goes into running things like this. So for you to trust me enough to bring me into it, and know that it's going to work and it's going to, you know, support
whenever you want to come back, let us know.
I had so much fun.
So
I had
fun.
like, I mean, I'm probably going to like write a letter to all the serial killers and be like, did nobody tell you that they love you? I love you. You're loved.
Yeah. Stop killing people.
Yeah,
You don't have to do this.
Don't, yeah. If I could say anything to anybody who is, you know, possibly on that cusp of becoming a killer, you need a hug, okay? You need a hug, not to end somebody's life.
You need a lot of hugs.
Hug. Yeah, but no, this has honestly been such an honor, and I am so like, this is going on my, and I don't know how to, I've like my 400 before 40 or something list, but this is going to go on there because I was so excited to have even been thought of, let alone to be here giving this, and I had such fun today.
You know what? I just turned 40 in August, and this has been like the best too. So I'm right there with you. Like,
see, there's a reason why we connected.
Yeah. I know. I really do like go off vibes, and you have a great one. So
yeah, vibes never lie.
Never. That's why we're so good together too.
Yeah.
We vibe well.
No, but it literally is. And if you get that vibe about someone, like, and that's what I mean, I don't even doubt it anymore. Like this is why I will just cut you, because, you know, like, and that's what I honestly feel like writing back to that client that I'm in the dispute with now. Like, mate, I'm a tarot reader who deals with energy, like your vibes off, but I'm not going to say that at all. But do you know what I mean?
But
like,
they should know that. Like,
right.
hey,
but because vibes never lie. But I'm so blessed that I get such high vibe people, you know, and because this is the whole thing, your vibe attracts your tribe. So if you are in alignment, living your best life, putting out the good vibes, you get the good vibes back to you. And this is why we've all connected.
That's awesome. I just want to thank everybody for listening. Go check out. All the links will be there. If you have any trouble with the links, look us up on our Facebook, Operation Evil Podcast, Instagram, Operation Evil. You can write us on our Gmail, Operation Evil podcast@gmail.com, and I will give you all Chelsea's information. Definitely go check it out. We want her to come back. We had such a good time, and I will be contacting you on the side here soon, because I'm gonna get like some kind of spiritual connection reading. You know, that's just what I do. I'm gonna be like your number one client.
I look forward to that.
Thank you so much. Do you have anything you want to close out with? You have a book too, right?
I do have a book. It is called Spirituality Your Way. It's a PDF that's in my Etsy shop. Very excitedly though, I'm feeling the fear and doing it anyway, and I'm just going to record it as an audio book and turn it into a Kindle. But at 1 o'clock today, I'm also speaking to a girl who I met on TikTok who self-published her own book that she prints on demand, because I'm like, why am I capping myself? Why don't I see if I can turn it into a print book? And I was like, I don't know how to do it. And then I was like, I don't know how to do a print book. So I just messaged this girl, and this is what I mean, your vibe attracts your tribe. I just messaged this girl on TikTok. I'm like, I bought your book. I love your book. I know that you self-published. I don't know how to do this. Can you help me? And I said to her, I'll give you a reading. Like, if you can help me self-publish this, I'll give you a reading. And she was
if
like,
you still need help, we work with 2 people that both publish books.
See, stop it. Everything happens for a reason. Everything happens for a reason. Yeah.
Yes. And I'm so excited because I get to be a character in one of their books. So I'm like,
that is a peak achievement. That has to go on yes. Oh my gosh.
Yes. So if you need additional help, let us know. We'll put you in touch.
Conversations at Intuition, people.
And then I'll just get with you about setting up my future business.
Yes, you will. I'm going to keep you about setting up your future business.
Yes.
What if tarot cards is like your passion and not podcast?
What about if it's both?
It could be.
What about if you marry them together? You never know.
What about if you do marry them together, though? What about if you do marry them together? What if you're the one sitting here doing these readings about these people you talk about all the time? And, you know.
Never know. I love the possibilities.
Yes.
Gonna throw everything out in the universe.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. Honestly. And then you just have, when you get that good feeling about it, you just have to commit to it and just see what happens. And magic will happen. I'm telling you.
Oh, I love that. We love you. Well, thank you so much. And everyone, we'll see you next week or talk to you next week.
Yeah.
Not see you. We'll talk to you
Thank
next
you.
week.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, Chelsea.
Bye.